everyone. This is Tina from Taz's Treasure, and today I have for you the December 2021 card kit from Spellbinders, Beauty is Everywhere. Now, this kit just showed up. It's pretty late. It showed up about 4 or 5 days ago, and I'm just now getting around to it. So it comes with our little recipe card there that shows us what's in the kit. And I'm unboxing this real quick because it's been a while, and I figured if I didn't remember what was in the kit, you wouldn't either. So it comes with some orange cardstock, some green, your gold double-sided cardstock, which is beautiful, a light blue, kind of a light pink there, well, dark pink, and this is kind of an off-white, and we have got a white and a black and a light pink. Now, surprisingly, not all of these colors go with the kit too well. The orange doesn't really work, and I think the dark pink doesn't work. We have a real pretty stamp set with some butterflies and birds and just a couple sentiments. Two-tone sequins in rose gold and pink. Comes with some frames, and we also get some real pretty butterflies that are kind of bright with kind of acetate and see-through. Get a few stickers that they're not really chipboard. They're more like popped up a little bit. We get, of course, our paper pad. I think somebody said there's 40 sheets in here. We get 2 of each. And there are some really pretty patterns in here. I don't use every single pattern, but I use quite a bit of them. And I just love the soft colors. And these papers, instead of having like gold in some of them, they've got like a glittery kind of raised edge, almost like embossed, raised embossed, and it's really kind of neat what some of these pattern papers, they just sparkle. And that's pretty much it for these pattern papers as I'm going through. Yep, that was it. And of course we get our tape and our card bases and envelopes and double-sided tape and foam tape, and those I didn't even bother showing. And here I'm just kind of pulling out the die cuts real quick so you can kind of get an idea of what we have in there. We've got some real pretty florals and doilies and more butterflies and some sentiments in French, which I had to call my daughter to translate them for me. She speaks French. I do not. She had like 4 years in high school, and she minored in college in French as well. And she still speaks it halfway decent. She might argue with me, but I mean, she speaks a lot better than I do. Surprisingly, we didn't get as many die cuts as we do with some of these kits. Because when I'm working on these kits, I always lay out all the die cuts, and I have this little like TV tray I lay them all out on, and I can tell by how full the tray is how many die cuts we've got. So that here's them spread out a little bit more. You can see them on my tray there. And here are the dies. I forgot to show the dies, and so I also made like the butterfly and different things out of them. And I'm going to use them on one card. So this first card has this really pretty pattern paper that I don't want to, cover up. I want to be able to show the pattern paper off. And so as I'm putting down a few other die cuts, I make sure that I don't cover up that bird. It's on like a real pretty doily there. And so I'm taking another doily die cut, and I'm putting this really pretty, it looks almost like a red-winged blackbird, but it's got more red than that on it. And I am going to pop that, or no, I'm not popping it up, I'm going to glue it down on the sentiment that says, "You are my happiness." And so this kit came with like 3 different doily die cuts, and I end up using them all on different cards. And I love this little bird, and I was trying to figure out how to use it, and it just works here. Now I've got a little piece of pattern paper that I cut into a little banner because there was this big open space, and I thought this card needed something. I didn't put any sequins on this card because I don't think the pink would have matched. And so this is pretty much it for card number 1. Now in the inside, I stamped "Let's Celebrate You," and I decorated the inside of all these cards. Now for card number 2, there's this pretty black pattern paper with flowers all over it. And I took this frame that came, and I put the frame on top of the black pattern paper. As you can see, I'm leaving a little bit of a white border all the way around because I thought with the pattern paper in black and white, a white border would just look nice. And now I'm taking a piece of pink cardstock and I am putting it behind this frame because I probably could have just left the frame open, but I thought a little extra pink might add something. And I'm just centering that on the base here. And now I am taking a bunch of butterflies. I'm not taking any of the iridescent acetate butterflies because those just were a little too bright for this card. But I've got like 5 butterflies there. 5 or 6 of them, and I'm going to put a piece of foam just in the middle of each one. And we're just going to pop up them from the center and leave their wings free. I want to put a bunch of butterflies inside of this frame. Now I end up with a little spot where I end up having to pull in a butterfly that matches one that's already there. So all these butterflies are different except for one, which I have 2 of, if that makes sense to you. So I'm gluing them down so I have a little bit of wiggle room here. Now I did have other butterflies set aside for different cards. I should have gone through them so I could have different butterflies for every butterfly could have been different then. And I have that kind of pink spot you can see above the middle butterfly. And so I'm just trying to figure out what butterfly to bring in there because like I said, I've got, it ends up matching the one that's on the left-hand side. But I'm like, whatever, I'm going to use it anyway. It's my butterfly orgy. I don't know. Can I say that? Well, I just did. I hope that didn't upset anybody. It's what I thought of when I saw this. So I got these all glued down and kind of arranged. I'm gonna rearrange the one butterfly that's wing is really sticking over the side. I don't do that right yet, but I'm going to do it before I show you the card at the end. And I'm popping up the sentiment, "There is simply nothing better." I have my foam tape on there. I'm going to have to try to work it under the butterfly wings. Get that all nice and centered on the bottom. And see, now I kind of move that butterfly wing a little bit, and you can pop up their wings a little bit more, give it more dimension. Now the inside, it does say "Let's Celebrate You" again with the butterfly. I use that to stamp a lot from the card kit for the inside. Now for card number 3, I've got 2 pieces of pattern paper and a piece of the light pink cardstock, and I glued that on my card base, and now I'm gluing a piece, I think it's 3 by 375, something like that. I don't even know. But I cut 2 pieces of pattern paper and I am just gluing them on my card base, overlapping them. And so I've kind of got these two little squares on the upper right hand side and the lower left hand side that don't have any pattern paper on them. And I'm going to end up putting sequins there, so it's going to work out. But I take the Sentiment Love that's kind of sparkly and I put that in the upper left hand corner, and there's this beautiful, I think it's a chrysanthemum, or maybe a peony. It's hard to tell. The leaves, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's more of a peony. And I'm putting that right in the middle there. And then I'm taking one of the sentiments that says Choose Joy. It's popped up. It's got a little bit of silver glitter in the background there, iridescent glitter. And this is a pretty simple card overall. And now I'm just taking the sequins that are both the rose gold and the pink, and I'm just kind of doing a splattering all along the card from upper right to lower left, gluing those down. I hope everybody's having a nice February so far. My February is not going too bad. Not yet. I'm having knee replacement surgery next, the 16th. So if you don't hear from me for a while when that, after the 16th, you'll know why. Hopefully I'll get in my craft room, though, just to distract me. And that says live, what's that say? It says, where there is love, there is life. It's a real pretty sentiment. Now for our next card, this is the one that I used some French sentiments, and this had this real pretty pattern paper with this peacock, and it says Love in Paris. And I didn't want to cover that up, so I do leave that exposed. Now this little sentiment here says you have a little je ne sais quoi. Now the sentiment that is long, I am not really sure how to pronounce the sentiment strip I end up putting down. I probably should have asked my daughter that. I did ask her what it says, and she said that it says, I love you forever, or I still love you. It just depends on the context. And yeah, I wish I knew how to pronounce that. That's what happens when you just text instead of calling. Of course, she was at work, so I wasn't going to call her up and ask her. I just sent her a picture of it and was like, hey, what's this mean? So I used a piece of the black cardstock that came in the kit, and I just used that as my frame on my card base to frame up this beautiful pattern paper. Now, I guess I could have used, the only place I think the orange cardstock that came in the kit possibly would have matched would have been with this pattern paper. I don't know what else the orange would have went with. I was thinking one of these days I'm going to take one of these kits and I'm going to try to make the ugliest card I can, because everybody always says, and I hear a lot, that these card kits all match, that you should be able to pull out anything, and it should match with everything else, and I don't think that's true. I think I could make a really ugly card if I tried. So this card here, I think this is card 4 or 5. No, this is 5. This one I use the different die cuts that I cut out in gold and some pink cardstock. And I do use a piece of yellow on the side. Now that came out of my stash because I thought that some pale yellow would look nice with this greenish pattern paper. It's got a real pale yellow pattern in the background of this this green paper. And this little typewriter here, it wasn't supposed to be stuck down to the card. Somehow it came off its release sheet and it stuck itself down, but it's good that it stuck itself down where it did, because that's where I was going to put it anyway. So I was just kind of amazed it stuck itself down. So I popped up this beautiful pinkish doily, and now I am just using the die cut butterfly, and I am gluing down the 2 die cut flowers that I did along with the greenery It's going to go in the background of the one flower. And I am going to use the sentiment, well, there are two sentiments, with love and for you. And I'm going to glue those down kind of wonky. I didn't pop them up. I guess in hindsight I could have popped them up, both because my doily and my typewriters popped up. Now the typewriter says write your own story, which is real pretty too. And, you know, I think there's a typewriter that came actually in this month's February Spellbinders large die of the month kit. So a lot of typewriters. And now I'm just taking a few sequins and putting them on the card to complete it. Just trying to get the pink ones. I don't want any rose gold ones on this card. I think it would clash with the gold foil that I used. And I'm just trying to figure out where I want them. Let's see. Sometimes these sweet sequins don't like to go down too easy. Sometimes I have to fight to get them not to stick to my my little wand. Some cards they do this month, some cards they don't. So, and this one says let's celebrate you inside as well. Now for card number 6, I have got this real pretty pattern paper that it originally was one sheet. It had like the piece I cut off that I'm going to use in the center was on the right hand side, and I thought that was just too pretty not to cut it off and use it as a central piece going down the middle. So I'm taking this pattern paper, which I did cut down a little bit. That's why it didn't look like it was seamless, the two pieces of paper, when I held them up. I trimmed it down to make it fit the way I wanted it to. And I've just got a little more, 1/8 of an inch or so showing on either side. And now I'm gluing that strip right down the center. I thought it was real pretty with the newsprint. It's darker than the rest of the pattern paper, and it's got a rose that I end up covering up anyway accidentally. And I'm bringing in some peel-offs from Love from Lizzie in kind of a brown color. I thought that might match with the kind of tea-dyed newsprint we're getting. And I thought it would just add something to the card instead of actually using card stock behind this pattern paper to frame it out. I'm using the peel-offs. And I've got so many of these peel-offs that, you know, you should be surprised you don't see them with every card. I just think they're really fun and I need to use more of them. I have a tendency to get stuff in my stash and hoard it or forget to use it. I've got a bunch of Nuvo drops that came with Tana kits that I always forget to use. And it's not that I'm adverse to using them. I just, I'll be done with my cards and be like, oh, I should have used those. And I don't. So now for this card, I'm going to take the little hot air balloon and some little florals that are kind of in a brown ink. I probably should have taken some vintage photo ink and kind of went along the sides of some of these bits. I meant to because I took the ink out. I just forgot to do it. I'm going to pop up the sentiment that says write your own story. And I'm also going to pop up the butterfly, but the hot air balloon and the little floral I am gluing down flat. And I'm trying to leave, you know, some of the pattern paper to let that do the work. There's a little butterfly at the bottom that I am leaving that showing. And that's why I am putting write your own story right above that butterfly, but I end up covering another butterfly. And I'm going to bring in just a few sequins to this card. I think I only used 3 sequins in the pink because I have the pink on the edges, so it does work. And I am upset I forgot to like use the vintage photo, but to try to come in with the vintage photo around the edges once everything's already glued down, I think that might make a bigger mess than, you know, just not using it at all. And for the inside of this card, I stamped again, Let's Celebrate You. Now that I remembered to use vintage photo for. And that's it for card number, is that 6, I think? Now for card number 7, I've got this pretty border along with this pattern paper that was just kind of a black, well, it's black, but it's just it's got a little bit different lighter spots and some stuff like that in it. It's not solid black like cardstock would be. And unfortunately, I still have some white showing from my card base because I don't get it totally over to the side. And that's why I'm trying to figure out where I want this border to go. And I just end up putting the border off on the right hand side. And I just think it's a real pretty border, but I end up covering up most of it with the other pattern paper that I'm using. Now the other pattern paper, it's got that raised iridescent kind of glittery look. Like I said, it looks like it's been heat embossed almost. And it kind of reminds me of a tile. And I do end up gluing that and putting that over the top of my border. I was just cutting the ends off right there. So just see, I'm just going to glue that right over the top here. And it's almost a happy accident because I think when I designed this card and put everything out, I think I had the border going over the top of that pattern paper that I'm gluing down now. But I do kind of like the way it's behind everything. I think because it's a different look that you don't expect, I think that's why I like it a little bit better. Now here I kind of messed up when I cut apart my 2 pieces of leftover paper, and I was going to just put those behind the frame. But I decide once my die cuts are down, you're not going to see where my seams are anyway. So I'm just going to piece a bunch of this black paper, pattern paper, down on top of my frame. And you know, it's a hot mess when you look at it when I turn it over, but once the die cuts are down, you don't see it. And so this frame is like a real pale mauvey pink with just some windows and doors. I think there might be doors all over it. And I'm just gluing down flat in the frame a little bird in black and white. And I've got the little feather in black and white, and a butterfly in black and white with a little bit of iridescence on its wings. And I'm gluing down everything kind of flat, but I do end up using some foam tape behind the feather here because I'm gluing it on top of the frame and I need to stabilize it. So I end up moving it and putting some foam tape there. And I do end up popping up the sentiment, Celebrate You. And now on the inside, we've got a little doily that says Love, Laugh, and Celebrate. You know, so I guess I read that, got ahead of myself. I'm putting some rose gold sequins on the front of this card. I've got 3 in the upper right and 3 in the lower left. And let's see if these sequins fight me a little bit or if they go down nice and smooth. Like I said, make a liar out of myself when I said they fight me. Every video or every card so far, they're going down nice and easy. And I'm just going to poke them to make sure they're down. Now there's that sentiment. And now for the next card here, I have got some real pretty green paper with like iridescent spots, raised spots. It kind of almost looks like brickwork or stone. And I am going to end up gluing that onto a piece of the pink cardstock. Now this time I've got that border, and I do glue that on top of the green pattern paper. It's a real pretty like lacy border in kind of a pink with a dark, kind of like a black lacy look. It's just gorgeous. I'm just kind of cutting off the top and the bottom. Eventually you'll see what I'm talking about. Maybe. Or am I just messing with you? No, you'll see it. A little later than sooner, but you will see it. So I'm just getting that even on my card. And I've got this pretty piece of like a die cut that's especially for you. And I'm going to glue that down at an angle. I'm going to glue that flat. I'm making this a flat card. We're going to glue that down, and we're going to put the little word love on top of that. The love is iridescent. It's got like this pink iridescence. And of course I'm doing the florals first because, you know, I'm just getting ahead of myself. See, I wasn't lying. I'm putting the word love down. But these florals are really pretty on this card. And we're just going to take the butterfly. Now this is one of the butterflies that I could have used for that second card, but I think it matches too well here. I would have kept it on this card anyway. So for the next card, this is my favorite pattern paper, I think, out of the whole kit. It's got this newsprint with the roses all over it, and it's just, you know, I love it. I'm surprised I'm not hoarding it, to tell you the truth. But I cut a piece, and the whole thing with this card is I want to make sure you can see that pattern paper. So I've got this white doily that's been on my desk for a while that every time I go to use it, it just doesn't work. Well, it works here. So I'm going to glue this down, and that white's going to look pretty striking with this tea-dyed paper. And I'm only going to put it kind of a third or 2/3 of the way on the card. I'm going to have it hanging off the edge, and I'm going to cut off the excess. And I've got two other little doilies that came with the die cuts that have little sparkle on both of them that I'm going to end up putting on top of this the white doily. But I think the white doily really looks good with the darker newsprint like. So you can see where those two little doilies are covering most of it, but that's what I want. I don't want that to be the main focal. I just wanted to give a little bit of extra interest on the card. Now this doily here that I'm gluing, you can pop out the center, but I'm going to be putting a butterfly over the center of it anyway. I've got a couple of the acetate butterflies, and these two aren't too bad. They've got the softer colors. And one's kind of peachy and one's kind of pinky. So I put the pink one over the gray and the peachy one kind of over the pink. And I take the sentiment, enjoy the little things, and I pop that up and I put that right in the center there. Now you can see my peachy butterfly going on and my pink butterfly going on. And they're kind of popped up. They've got a little foam tape behind them. And now I'm going to take just 3 sequins. I didn't want to put sequins all over. I want you to be able to really focus on that pattern paper because I said I love it. This might be my favorite card. And this kit had some beautiful pattern papers, and you get some really beautiful cards out of it. So, you know, for this to be my favorite, I think is saying something. I like the card we did, you know, number what was it, 8 as well. The one we did right before this one I thought was real pretty. It's got some soft looks, kind of a vintage vibe going with this kit. And now here we are on card number 10. Now this one's got a blue paper. I think it's the only blue in the kit pretty much, other than the cardstock. And so I've got the piece of light blue cardstock, and I am going to glue down the piece of blue pattern paper. It's kind of almost a damask, I would think. Is that right? And this frame that I've got off to the side in a light green actually matches the pattern on the pattern paper. So I try to line it up a bit. Now I think it ends up looking a little crooked on the card, but I'm not sure if that's what's going on with that, because I did match up the pattern to the pattern paper, and then I am just going to be gluing down a few die cuts. I glued down another little bird with the branch. It looks like she's got some cherry blossoms going there. And I took a nice floral and I popped that up a little bit on the outside and glued it to on the inside of the frame. I popped it up, and then I just glued it flat to the frame. And I think the foam pieces I used were a little bit puffier than I would have liked. And I'm using the sentiment, "Today is your day." And I picked that mainly. It's a pretty sentiment, but because it's also in the green, it matches my frame there. And this butterfly in the green matches perfectly too. And the inside, "Let's celebrate you" again. I used that a whole lot. So here are my 10 cards. Please let me know which one you liked. If you had a favorite, I'd love to hear it. I'd love for you to subscribe if you're not already. And if you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. And I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope everyone has a fabulous night. So, bye-bye for now. Bye.